He texted 3 words. No punctuation that mattered, no explanation, nothing dramatic, just, "I'm fine." And somehow, 2 days later, that same small phrase turned into one of the most confusing arguments of their relationship. Jordan and Priya had a disagreement over the phone one evening about weekend plans. Nothing huge. Priya wanted to visit her sister. Jordan had been hoping for a quiet weekend at home after a stressful week at work. They went back and forth for a few minutes, and eventually Jordan said, "Fine, whatever works," and the call moved on to something else entirely. Priya assumed the topic was closed. From her side, there was nothing left to resolve. They'd talked it through, Jordan had agreed, and that was that. 2 days later, completely out of nowhere, Jordan brought the same topic back up, except this time, there was real frustration in his voice. He didn't just mention the weekend plans. He listed 3 other things alongside it, things that, according to him, had been bothering him for weeks. Priya was genuinely blindsided. As far as she knew, nothing had been wrong since that phone call. The fine had felt final. It wasn't. This kind of moment happens constantly in relationships, and it's almost never about the actual word being said. It's about what the word is doing underneath the surface. In Jordan and Priya's case, fine was an agreement. It functioned more like a pause button. Jordan didn't actually feel resolved about the conversation. He felt tired of arguing in that moment and wanted it to stop, so he used a word that sounds like resolution, but actually just ends the conversation without resolving anything. The underlying frustration didn't disappear just because the topic stopped being discussed out loud. It got stored, quietly, and it kept accumulating. This is where something communication researchers call kitchen sinking comes in. And once you understand it, you start noticing it everywhere. Kitchen sinking is what happens when several older, unaddressed frustrations all get poured into a single new argument at once, instead of being dealt with individually as they came up. It feels disproportionate from the outside, like someone is suddenly upset about everything all at once over something small. But it's not actually about the small thing. The small thing is just the moment the dam breaks. Everything that built up quietly behind it comes rushing out at the same time, which is exactly why these arguments feel so much bigger and more chaotic than whatever technically triggered them. Here's the part most people miss, and it's the part that actually matters if you want to read these moments correctly in real time, instead of only understanding them after the fact. The word fine itself tells you almost nothing. What tells you something is the tone and the timing immediately around it. A relaxed, easy, fine, whatever works, said with a laugh or in a casual tone, usually does mean exactly what it says. It's genuine flexibility, but a flat, fast fine, followed by an abrupt silence, a quick change of subject, or a noticeably shorter reply than usual, is a completely different signal. It's not agreement. It's someone deciding, in that moment, that continuing the conversation costs more than it's worth, even though the underlying feeling is still very much there. If you want to actually catch this pattern before it turns into a delayed, confusing argument days later, there's a simple thing you can do in the moment. When someone gives you a flat fine after a disagreement, especially if their tone shifted at all during the conversation, you can gently check in rather than just accepting it at face value. Something as simple as, "Are we actually okay?" or "Do you just want to drop it for now?" opens the door for the real answer without forcing anyone to keep arguing if they genuinely don't want to. It sounds small, but it interrupts the kitchen sinking pattern before it has a chance to build. It's also worth saying clearly that this isn't about one person being wrong and the other being right. Jordan wasn't lying when he said fine. In that exact moment, some part of him probably did want to let it go. The problem wasn't that his feelings changed his mind later, it's that the underlying frustration was never actually expressed the first time, so it had nowhere to go except to wait and resurface, usually attached to other things, usually at a moment that feels disconnected from whatever originally caused it. If you've ever been on either side of this, the person who said fine and meant it for about an hour, or the person who got blindsided days later by something they thought was already settled, you already understand exactly how disorienting this pattern is to be inside of. The good news is that once you can name it, it becomes much easier to ask a simple, clarifying question in the moment, instead of discovering the real answer 2 days later, usually at the worst possible time. If you've ever gotten blindsided by a delayed fine like this, drop your story in the comments, because honestly, these are some of the most relatable patterns out there. And subscribe, because tomorrow we're looking at a completely different pattern, one that explains why some people pull away the exact moment things start going well.